Porter Stansberry of endofamerica number3.com. That's endofamerica3.com with Stansberry and Associates is joining us. If you just tuned in, Barron's called his predictions a dire prophecy after they came true, a prophecy, and he's predicting that it will become completely evident by the end of this next year coming up that the dollar is no longer the world reserve's currency. He's been saying this for a few years, but now he's really coming out and saying this is it. And you're seeing the Chinese and Russians say they're not going to deal in dollars for inter-country trade, but between each other. But he's here to take your phone calls right now. But first, I want to play that ad that an organization, Citizens Against Government Waste, was deemed too controversial by ABC, A&E, the History Channel, and many, many others. You guys got that video ready? Fantastic, because I'd forgotten you to get it ready. I'm glad you already had it. Just because Porter was talking about censorship and how it's self-imposed a lot of times because people at the Wall Street Journal or Fox or CNN, they are all tied into these companies, or in some cases are getting government bailouts themselves in the case of MSNBC and CNBC owned by General Electric. And they don't want you to understand that they're globalists, they're offshore, they don't care about this country or middle-class wealth. They will sacrifice it on the altars of their globalist system. So here's that ad with the communist Chinese, you know, a decade from now, talking about how America imploded like Rome or other empires that devalued their currency and collectively was banned from U.S. television. Well, who knows about Congress, but you can individually find out solutions that I think are absolutely dead on at endofamerica, the number3.com. Porter Stansberry, you know, in the big picture, in your view, is there any way to right this sinking ship? I think it's going under, but if we know who to blame, then the globalists can't get even more power out of what they're doing, and we may be able to use the anger to finally kick them out of this country and reignite the engine of liberty right off these debts. Do you have any large-scale solutions?
No, but I have a lot of cynicism. Good luck, Alex. I have also a comment about that ad. You know, the producers of that ad are something called the People Against Government Waste or something like that.
Yeah,
right?
Citizens Against Government Waste.
What isn't government waste? What does the government do that's efficient or useful? I mean, it seems kind of an oxymoronic name for a group of people, right? But as far as how to stop this thing, it's again, let's go back to the simple math. More than half of the households in this country do not pay any federal income taxes. Period. Okay. So how are you going to win against those people in a democracy?
Two wolves and a sheep voting on what's for dinner. The banksters are going to sick the welfare hordes on you. Absolutely.
They absolutely will. There's two forms of welfare in this country, as you well know. There's the welfare that goes out to the lower class and the lower middle class to buy votes, and then there's the welfare that goes out to the corporations that helps the politicians stay in power. And I honestly don't know that there's any way to break that system except for a collapse of the system. And I guess the only sort of good news, the silver lining, is that you can't continue to run an economy or a society this way. It's too corrupt. And eventually, the truth comes out of the numbers, and those are the numbers that I have to show people in my video. You can't go on running deficits and debt forever. It's going to destroy the economy.
But here's the problem, and I agree with you, Porter. Here's the problem. They have preemptively set up a police state. They plan to go into a Stalinistic system to prop this up. They know it's going to implode, and so it's during that implosion phase that we'd better point the finger at the culprits and end this system, or they're planning to make it even worse. And the reason I played that video earlier, regardless of the political group statements, is, and of course they're against the out-of-control debt as well, is to illustrate that that was collectively censored, and that was the point you made at the start of the interview last hour, is that the media self-censors.
No, there's no doubt about that, Alex. There's absolutely no doubt about that. And I'm sure you have been threatened by the government over the years.
Oh, yeah.
There's been talk about shutting down talk radio, things like that. The government has sued me for writing an investment report about, essentially was about corruption in a government-controlled company. Anyone who really speaks out and says the truth about things is going to put a bullseye on their heads, and they're going to get attacked. And I know that your viewers, there are probably different opinions in regards to the WikiLeaks guy who has been broadcasting state secrets. I think some people probably think he should be strung up. But I actually think that anyone who increases the amount of information is doing a good thing, not a bad thing.
Well, I agree with Ron Paul in his statement that telling the truth is not treason. And Sarah Palin says he's un-American. Well, he is from Australia.
Exactly.
I mean, she was saying North Korea is our ally the week before. I don't want to bash her, but really, folks, if she doesn't have a teleprompter, she's in deep trouble. And now this is who they're getting ready to run for president as our savior. I mean, look. My whole issue here is there's no doubt you're right. There's no doubt the video you're breaking down, End of America, the number3.com, really has some good solutions in it. I'm just flabbergasted by how fast this is moving. Let's talk to Bob in Arizona. Bob, you're on the air with our guest. Go ahead.
Thank you very much, Alex. Quickly, just to you, Porter, and your crew, Alex, Merry Christmas.
Thank you, buddy.
Yeah, you bet. You're doing a wonderful job. And I've actually just, I've got one quick statement and then a question for you, Alex, and a question for Porter. My quick item I wanted to share with you is on the Viper teams. I saw a Viper team come through my neighborhood, and I'm out in the middle of the desert, Alex.
Yeah, for those that don't know, the TSA is admittedly to be on the streets of America. They now are in the malls. These are federal minimum wage stormtroopers training you that they will put their hands down your pants. Porter, do you have any comments on that?
I'm sorry. I'm just not familiar with any of that stuff.
Well, that's the TSA group.
I don't find it surprising. I don't find it surprising. I just don't know the details of it.
Well, that's the TSA has announced they're going to take over all of America. Quickly, because I want to get to others that have specific questions for Porter. Bob, what did you see?
Okay, do you want me to ask my questions, or do you want me to see what I saw regarding that?
Just briefly, what did you see with the TSA?
Very, very briefly, what I saw was in my neighborhood as I was out walking. Off the main highway, we call them dualies. I've lived in Texas.
That's a truck with the four wheels in the back.
Exactly. This dually was pulling a long white container, or that like a mobile home type situation. We call them Batmobiles out here.
Okay, doesn't matter. What'd you see?
Well, it said Department of Homeland Security, turned off the highway. This was probably around 3 in the afternoon.
Sure, what did it do? What did it do?
It basically just came through the neighborhood, did a U-ey, went back out, and went on the highway.
Yeah, okay, so they're driving around everywhere and putting up telescreens. What's your question for Porter?
My question for Porter is regarding the Federal Reserve in New York. And, of course, they're not federal. When I was, and I shared this with you, Alex, a few weeks or maybe a month or so ago, I was in the Merchant Marines. I went to the Merchant Marine Academy on Long Island. Our field trip for economics, or for when we were back there as plebes, was to go out at Wall Street and have a tour of the Federal Reserve. When we were taken down to the into the basement, our guide was very arrogant and saying, "Oh, we've never been broken into, we won't." But he took us down into a room and in a caged area. If you stuck your finger, and it showed on wooden pallets piles of gold bullion, and he basically said, for each pallet of gold you can see here, that is gold for various different countries. That's Zimbabwe.
All right, I understand. I'm going to have to let you go in about 10 seconds. Do you have a question?
My question to Porter is, and of course this was in 81, Porter, is that just a dog and pony show, or is that real gold?
All right, I appreciate your call. We know that they have a fraction of gold backing for their fiat currency. In fact, it's not even officially gold-backed. Porter?
It's true that the Federal Reserve Bank in New York holds a lot of gold bullion on deposit for other countries. I don't really think that plays a role in our discussion. As I've said, no matter how much gold the Federal Reserve has, it's not nearly enough to back the currency they've created over the last couple of years. So for the gold to be used as backing again, the price of gold would have to go much, much higher.
Porter, on a side issue, and we're going to skip this final break in this hour. Before we let you go at the bottom of the hour, we're going to take more calls, and hopefully they can be quicker questions. I don't mind long questions, but we're almost out of time here. WikiLeaks EPA document shows it knowingly allowed pesticide that killed honeybees. That's what the German study showed 3 years ago. There's an example of this culture of corruption where they know that honeybees are dying in some areas almost completely, and the government doesn't care because they're owned by special interest that have no connection to reality. I mean, we're in a lot of trouble, Porter.
Yeah, I agree. I've read a lot of the WikiLeaks material. Even before the guy became famous, I've been using WikiLeaks in my research for the last year, and I've always found the content to be excellent. And I certainly I don't know why Americans would feel threatened by someone telling the truth about what our government's doing. If our government's not acting in our best interest, why shouldn't we know about it?
People get off on being slaves. They like being hurt real bad, and don't worry, the system's going to hurt you real bad. Mark in Georgia, you're on the air with our guest. Porter, go ahead.
Hey, Alex and Porter, great job on your site. I signed up after I heard your ad on Alex's show. Porter, I have 3 quick points. One is, what's to stop the Federal Reserve from continuing to manipulate the bid-to-cover ratio on the Treasury bonds by funneling money to the Caribbean hedge funds and having it come back into the Treasury appearing to be as independent Treasury purchase? Mm-hmm. 2, on the oil side, Saudi Arabia is corralled more militarily than they don't love the dollar. They're just strung up by the U.S. Army. And then the third thing is I don't think they're going to let the dollar go so quickly until they have something in place like the Bank or the SDR. Those are my 3 points.
Okay, great. I think those are all excellent questions. To your first point, yes, under the regulations that the Fed operates under, authorizations from Congress and such like that, they can buy any asset they want. I mean, so yes, the answer is they can manipulate the dollar for a very long time. They have a great power to do so. The problem is that they cannot control the effects of doing that in the broader economy. So the reason why I believe the system is beginning to break down is because it's clear to me that the effects of what they're doing, a lower value of the dollar, are beginning to have serious complications in the global economy. In regards to Saudi Arabia being a slave to America's military power, you're exactly right. That's exactly true. Unfortunately, that doesn't mean that Saudi Arabia is going to continue to give us oil. If you look back at the history of Saudi Arabia, every time we have done something to devalue the dollar, they have been successfully able to negotiate a vastly higher price for crude. I have no doubt that will continue. And in regards to the dollar being able to hold the value, unfortunately, that's just simply not the way the global currency markets work. Global currency market volume is about $5 trillion a day. As wealthy as our government is, there's no way they can control that market.
And we already see the slide, as I said earlier, accelerating. Great questions, Mark. Let's go ahead and talk to Joe in Pennsylvania. You're on the air.
Hello there, gentlemen. How are you?
Good. Welcome.
I got 3 quick questions, and I'll take them off air.
All right.
Number 1, when you say get assets like agricultural and gold, are you talking physical or stocks? That's number 1. And number 2, if I do buy the stocks, let's say I have about $10,000, and the system implodes and the dollar collapses, how do I get my money back out of the markets? And what do I do with it once I get it?
All right, well, what I would do personally, and I want to get Porter's take, but I want to see if he agrees with me. If you only got 10 grand, I would buy silver. Personally, that's the poor man's gold because there's not much to hedge there. Maybe a little gold and then some silver. But, I mean, let's get Porter's take on what I just said.
I think the questions were a little bit more strategic than that, which was not just what I should buy, but how am I going to be able to use it? And I think it's really it's a very good and honest question, and I appreciate you asking it because I'm sure a lot of other people have it. But I also think it's emblematic of something that's really quite amazing. For the entire history of mankind, precious metals have been money. People have had gold or gold receipts. People have had silver coins in their pockets. Everybody knew how to use these things. And yet in just the last 40 years, the entire American population has forgotten what real money even feels like or how to use it. The point of buying bullion and silver, gold bullion and silver bullion today, is so that when the monetary system collapses, you'll still have money. Because when the paper money collapses, people are going to demand real money again. And real money is gold and silver.
And whatever new fiat they have, you can also cash it in at that point. And in history, it will save its value so you won't have the devaluation.